On third reading and final passage, is there any debate? Recognize the gentle lady from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Body, I'm a little uncomfortable with the movement of this bill. It was a late filed bill. It did not get a full hearing. There was no opposition allowed orally for this bill. The bill was completely gutted and replaced by a simple extension of the current policy, which was put in place during COVID. I'll just explain to everybody exactly what the policy allows. The policy allows for a caregiver of a child to bring them to a pharmacy to be vaccinated. It does not specify a parent or legal guardian, so a person other than a parent or legal guardian could take a child to the pharmacy to receive a vaccine. The reason why this is problematic is because little bodies need different treatment than big bodies. Just like if you take your child to the PICU, there's a special team to insert their IV fluids. It can be incredibly difficult. Little bodies often react differently, and additionally, they don't always remember what they've already had done. I had a friend just a few weeks ago in a divorce situation where she had an appointment to get her child immunized, and then her ex-spouse took her child to have the child immunized with the same exact vaccines just a week before her appointment. The child could have very well been vaccinated twice within a 2-week time period. What we found with the original study that was supposed to come from this was that a significant portion of our providers in the state of Maryland, a significant portion, are no longer reporting to EmuNet. That means they are not inputting the data that they are supposed to be inputting so that practitioners know, has this vaccine already been given to this child? It used to be around 69% of people were using the system. Now it's below 49%. That's a huge decrease in our practitioners who are actually using this state-mandated system. That is really dangerous for children who are in divorce situations, very dangerous for children who are in foster care situations, and really harmful for parents who are busy and may not remember if they've already given their child the flu shot this season. We already have a huge amount of information for the state to continue to analyze. Currently, the up-to-date information is for 2020. That means we have 2021 and 22's full data that they can analyze to complete their study. That was supposed to be completed in January. They have finished the preliminary. It was came out in December. But we do not need to extend this potentially dangerous policy for another year. That data will take years for them to analyze. But children are being impacted right now by the failure of our providers to actually use the EmuNet system as they are mandated to by state law. So I'm very uncomfortable with continuing this policy without the data being analyzed at this point. I do not think this bill should have moved without appropriate public input and opposition, and so I will be a strong red vote on this bill today.
Recognizing the Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to this. I recognize the good delegates' desire to protect, and I think that I want to make sure that we have the complete information. The federal government actually has a program called National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, which means that anyone who feels like they have a negative reaction to a vaccine can go to this program and be compensated without having to go through the court system, the expensive and protracted court system. So there's a way to keep track of how many negative incidences there are that happen due to any kind of immunization, children or adults. This organization, keeps track of all of the data, but also keeps track of the research. And the gentlelady from Hartford is correct that the kind of needle that you use for a 3-year-old is different from the kind of needle that you might use for an 8-year-old. But what they report is, and I'm reading from their report, this is their quote, "Despite this potential risk, children are rarely the subject of petitioner claims for CERVA, which is the reaction to the vaccine. In general, soft tissue injuries such as ligament disruptions are uncommon in pediatric populations. I also need the body to know that this bill is supported by the health department. And I'm going to point out that the Secretary of Health is now a physician herself. So she signed on to a letter of support, which I feel confident she would not have done if she felt like this was of significant risk to our young people. And I just, in terms of the challenge around Immunet, and again, I honestly believe that our Secretary of Health got the data before she put this in the letter. She says in her letter that in Maryland, pharmacists administering vaccinations are required to report vaccinations to the State Immunization Information System, Immunet, where providers and their patients can access immunization history. Based on the data obtained from Immunet, 98% of the vaccine doses reported by pharmacists are available within Immunet within 7 days of the administration, which suggests information is readily available to other healthcare providers. I urge the body to support this bill.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A couple topics I want to hit on. First of all, I'll say that in opposition to this bill was MedChi, Mid-Atlantic Association of Community Health Centers, the AAP. These people opposed this bill. They do not support this bill. So while the health department may support it, they do not support it. And the data that came in the original study showed that previous years there was some 69% of providers reporting and using Immunet, and the data from the health department showed that the most recent information, and I'll just go ahead and read it to you, is that 47% in 2020, 47% of providers were reporting to Immunet. This is from the Maryland Department of Health from March 16th, 2022. So I don't know what 90% is, but it's, according to the health department, directly reading from them, 2020, 47%. 18 was 66%. We went up a little bit in 19 to 69%. And then in 20, providers dropped off using the system. This is from the health department. On the topic that she touched on to do with injury, there's sort of two things that the federal government does. One is they have the vaccine injury compensation program. The other thing they do is the VAERS system, which is a passive reporting system. So if you have an injury or your child has an injury that you're aware of, you tell your doctor or a nurse and they can input into the system. The vaccine injury compensation program that she touched on, that she said was a no-cost compensation program. Let me tell you about one Maryland woman who had the excruciating pain of going through that system for the compensation of the death of her child. Her child was killed by the HPV vaccine. It took her more than 7 years in this federal court system to finally get compensation for her dead child. She got $250,000. That's the max you get for having your child killed. So it's not an easy program to go through. I pray that no one on this floor ever knows anyone that has to, because it would make some of the litigation that some of us have gone through in our lives seem really insignificant. It is not a good program. It is not effective. And the vast majority of people from medical organizations that came in on this bill came in opposed to it.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.